All right, everyone. I hope you had a blessed weekend with your family and loved ones. Starting the week with some big developments ngayon. Itong elections over the weekend kung saan, as expected, of course, nanalo ang ruling party na Democratic Progressive Party of Taiwan. At ito, of course, ito yung progressive party nila. Ito yung partido na much closer dun sa idea ng Taiwanese separate identity. And of course, para sa mga kritiko naman, ito yung partido na that is usually more sympathetic, at least supposedly more sympathetic dun sa pro-independence sentiments sa Taiwan. Although of course, as we'll discuss later on, pagdating naman sa policies ni Tsai Ing-wen and most likely under the incoming Lai administration, expect natin that they're going to be very responsible and they're going to have a very balanced approach kung saan i-assert nila yung separate Taiwanese identity pero hindi sila mag-push for any kind of referendum or de jure declaration of independence, which of course could trigger a total war with China. Now, balikan natin itong issue na ito, anong nangyari sa Taiwan at anong implication ito para sa Pilipinas. Many things to catch up on. Of course, I hope folks napanood nyo yung mga review natin ng Gomburza the other day. And please, if you didn't have a chance to check it, go and check it out on our different platforms on YouTube, Spotify, among others. Because for me, pagdating sa Gomburza, yung movie, no? It in many ways perhaps is the beginning of a new golden era for Philippine cinema. In a way, it is a renaissance for Philippine cinema. Now, balikan natin itong issue ng Taiwan because malaking implication ito sa Pilipinas operationally, and also geopolitically and potentially even, morally. Speaking of operationally, mamaya pag-usapan natin yan because if you look at the EDCA bases, some of the EDCA bases are very close to Taiwan. And that means na pagdating dun sa mga strategic calculus ng Pilipinas at mga aliado natin, both Japan and of course the United States, one of the reasons why interesado ang Amerika in terms of gaining access to bases north of the Philippines is because of the Taiwan question. So kung ano mangyari sa Taiwan, in one way or another, it's gonna have some implications dun sa ating alyansa with the United States. But more broadly, it's gonna also have implications for our own national security, our own strategic calculus, at saka yung ating relasyon sa China. So in short, hindi natin mahiwalay ang nangyayari sa Taiwan dun sa mga nangyayari sa pagitan ng Pilipinas, China, at America. All of these are very much related, and then later on operational, I'll show you why. We're gonna look at a number of maps. We're gonna look at a number of figures that show to you how important Taiwan is to the Philippines. In addition to the fact na, of course, katulad ng mga marami natin mga kababayan na nag-follow sa atin all around the world, I notice na meron din tayong mga kababayan na kaibigan at followers sa Taiwan. No? As you know, several 100,000 strong ang ASEAN and Filipino community dyan sa Taiwan. Marami sa kanila na-meet natin nung visiting scholar ako sa National Cheng Kung University a few years ago just before pandemic. So obviously, yung primary concern natin kung sakali magkakaroon ng gulo sa Taiwan is yung kalagayan ng ating mga OFWs, ang ating mga kababayan. But whether we like it or not, that's not unfortunately that's not going to be the only concern. Potentially may military and geopolitical concern din ng Pilipinas when it comes to things that are happening in Taiwan. So I would argue that of all ASEAN countries and perhaps of all countries in the world, siguro ang Pilipinas ay nasa top 3 or at most top 5 countries na maging most directly affected if something major happens in Taiwan, right? So that's why please pay attention to what's happening in Taiwan. And then on side note, I don't not to trivialize the situation, of course, yung mga kababayan natin na hindi pa nakapunta sa Taiwan. Ang dami kong kilala mga Pilipino na nakapunta sa kung saan corner of the world pero hindi nakapunta sa Taiwan na napakalapit sa atin. It's a beautiful country, fantastic people. I love the culture, I love the food. There's so much to see in Taiwan. And guess what? It's just over 1 hour away from Manila to Taipei. And from Lawag in the north to Kaohsiung, probably wala pang 20 minutes yan with flight, diba? So napakalapit ang Taiwan sa atin. And geography is geopolitics, no? So pag-usapan lahat natin mga yan. But before going into the broader implications for the Philippines, ating national security, EDCA, Philippine-China-US triangle, let's briefly discuss ano nangyari sa Taiwan to begin with para lang makaka-catch up tayo ng konti. Obviously, you're free to check my writings, including upcoming writings on the Taiwan elections and its broader geopolitical implications. Ipopost natin yan. Actually, if you could just go online, post Hey Darian Taiwan, you're gonna see a number of things for background information. But I will post you, ifo-forward ko rin kung may mga bagong articles tayo. But in the meantime, let me just give you an overview dun sa mga medyo tinatamad magbasa, right? Ayan, yung mga polvoronic, ayan, yung mga TikTokers natin, nangasar na sila, alright. Yung mga polvoronic yan. Okay, yung mga tinatamad, nagpo-polvoronic, ayan, makinig na lang kayo dito, alright. Bibigyan natin ng crash course. And of course, by the way, congratulations sa ating mga Madridistas. Ayan, nanalo tayo ng finals ng Super Cup laban sa Barcelona. Of course, I have nothing against Barcelona, but you know, die hard Madridista po tayo. So congratulations sa Real Madrid, very young team, very energetic team and huge potential. So I'm super happy for Real Madrid. And at the same time, of course, congratulations also to the new administration or new incoming administration sa Taiwan, the William Lai administration. Pag-usapan natin yan. So these are the numbers. So the race actually was much closer than many thought. I was in Taiwan a few months ago, and I remember, actually, iba sa inyo, you were able to watch live kasi na-live stream ko yung papasok si William Lai dun sa event namin sa Taiwan. And he gave a speech. So you can find it actually on my pages, no? Especially sa Facebook page na live stream natin, si William Lai coming in. I found him very relaxed. I found him very self-assured and self-confident. Definitely not flashy, definitely not populist, definitely not demagogic, definitely not agent provocateur. So let's just hope for responsible statesmanship and for continuing the good legacy of the outgoing Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen. Because in fairness to President Tsai Ing-wen, I know marami siyang critics inside Taipei, marami siyang critics outside Taipei, but I think overall she was able to prevent any major diplomatic crisis with China. The only major event that happened during the Tsai Ing-wen administration, hindi ito kasalanan ni Tsai Ing-wen, kasalanan to ng mga Amerikano, alright? Or kasalanan din yan ng mga Chino. And this was the pagbisita ni former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, sa Taipei. I'm not sure how much that was instigated on the part of Taipei and Taiwan. Some are saying that was more sariling sikap ni then outgoing Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and of course that marked what experts call the fourth Taiwan Straits crisis or fourth cross Straits crisis, right? Thankfully hindi nagkaroon ng giyera, and thankfully we're able to get through it. In fact, napansin ko dito sa TikTok, for instance, yung most viewed video natin, analysis natin is actually in the Taiwan crisis noong August 2022, close to 500,000 views. So I'm glad that there's a lot of interest, no? I'm glad that there's a lot of interest pagdating sa developments sa Taipei at cross-straits relations, including on TikTok, which of course, medyo binash natin ng konti the other month kasi sabi ko parang yung mga pinapost ko sa West Philippines parang ano. Anyway, mga pang-usapan yan, balikan natin itong TikTok later on. Okay, let's go back to Taipei. And Taiwan and what happened there. So ito, katulad ng kita dito sa graphics na yan, of course, don't worry yung mga ibang followers natin on different platforms, you'll see a finalized version of this. So if you look at it, the elections was pretty tight because there were 3 candidates. Usually it's like, because Taiwan is supposed to be more like United States and what the Philippines was supposed to look like, which was like a 2-party systems or dominant 2-party systems. But these elections, for the first time in a very long time, actually the third party, the TPP party by Ko Wen-je and Wo Xin-ying, actually did very, very well. Very, very well. It won close to 4 million votes, which was equal to 26.46% of the votes. The Kuomintang party, which used to be the dominant party for almost half a century, and then still managed to win elections during democratic elections. So actually had the chance to meet back then when he was the president, Ma Ying-jeou. So Ho Yu-hee and Jia Xiaokung, they managed to win close to 5 million votes, 4,671,000 votes. So that's equal to 33% of the votes. So put together, if you look at the TPP party and Kuomintang party, that's more or less 60% of the votes, right? But because split yung dalawang alternative parties na yan, that provided the opening for Lai to close the race together with Xiao Bi Kim at 40%. So just over 40%, 40.05%. and close to 6 million votes. Now, this is lower than 57% votes that Tsai Ing-wen won in the previous elections in 2020, significantly lower. But because it was a three-way race, he managed to have, pretty comfortable lead. Because if you look at the lead between number one and number two, that's the DPP and the Kuomintang Party. That's a huge lead. That's more than 1 million votes, 5.6 versus 4.7, and this was 40% to 33%. So not even close, right? Now there were concerns that the race was closing because, as I said, I remember when in August I was in Taiwan and listening to William Lai. He was a prohibitive favorite, no, but the race began to close, and then we look at the final result. It was a comfortable win, but as I already mentioned a while ago, if the Kuomintang and the TPP party, if they joined forces, they would have had close to 60% of the votes, and they would have had changed the result of these elections. No, now dahil sa internal party politics, trapo politics, whatever you want to call it, hindi pumayag either si Ho or si Ko na bumaba as the vice presidential race. So hindi nagkaroon ng unity team, right? So had the TPP and Kuomintang form a unity team, then they would have defeated the DPP party, right? Even if the DPP party was able to secure a significant plurality of the votes at around 40% or so. The overall voting turnout was around 72%, so that's 3% lower than the previous elections, but nevertheless among the highest if you look at the established democracies. So that's quite interesting if you look at that. Now, dun sa parliamentary race, if you look at the Taiwanese DPP party, it managed to win around 51 seats out of 100 plus. Is it 113? Legislature, yung legislative yuan. They only lost by one because the Kuomintang won 52 seats, but neither of them have a majority. So actually, the future of the legislature of Taiwan is still up for grabs because the TPP party actually won 8 seats, and if I'm not mistaken, the independents have 2 seats. So around 10 seats will determine who will control the legislature. So it's not necessarily 100% sure that the opposition will control the legislative yuan. So there's still some slight chance that the DPP party will hold on to both the legislature and the executive, although I'd rather not bet on that. No. Now, having said that, bago nagkaroon ng elections, actually China made so many threats, so many threats, and in fact, those threats were made even after the elections. No, so ahead of the race, damage to China, they've been bashing the DPP party and essentially warning the Taiwanese people against voting for the DPP party because they see them as renegades. They see them as troublemakers, and if you look at some of the headlines coming out there will be severe punishment if ever nanalo yung DPP party na more pro-independence than the other party, especially Kuomintang. Although, as I said, even the DPP is making sure that they don't openly provoke China and not give an excuse. If you look at some of the more right-wing American or Western publications, they look at how China has vowed to quote unquote crush Taiwan if Taiwan moves towards something more dramatic. Now, it looks like none of these threats by China really worked. In fact, it was not only threats by China. I mean, China did a lot of military exercises around Taiwan over the past year, not only after yung Nancy Pelosi visit. Also, there were concerns about Chinese sharp power operations. Alam niyo na yung mga yan, yung mga pogo style, diba? Yung mga ganun, diba? Actually, Taiwan, in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, in the parliamentary elections, medyo malaking talo ng DPP party back then because China allegedly was able to influence the elections by backing a lot of pro-Beijing folks. And a lot of them allegedly comes from the Kuomintang party, which ironically was kalaban of Communist Party back during the Civil War years. So there has been fears that China will be able to manipulate the elections, undermine the elections, sabotage the elections, and essentially intimidate and bully the voters against rallying behind the DPP party. But none of that happened. None of that actually happened. What happened eventually was opposition remained, the pro-Beijing opposition remained divided. and they could not come together. But more importantly, and this is what I have to emphasize here. Don't worry, guys. I'm not gonna overdo the Taiwan part. I know hindi naman lahat kayo super excited about Taiwan, but I have to do this part because before we go to the broader regional implications, we have to look at what happened inside Taiwan first, diba? I know. Okay, so if you look at it, this is an interesting survey by National Chengchi University, which actually I used to be based there as a visiting scholar. So if you look at this survey, it's very interesting. Now, as you know, of course, Taiwan is technically called Republic of China. They consider themselves as the true heir of what Sun Yat-sen began more than 100 years ago. And of course, a lot of folks in Taiwan are of Chinese ethnic background. A lot of them, well, a huge number of them speak Mandarin or Chinese. A lot of them also speak Japanese, by the way, because of the Japanese colonial history there, apparently, which was not as bad as what we had in the case of the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries. Now, if you look at it, if dito sa survey niyan, halos, I mean, it's vast majority of Taiwanese, over time, more and more Taiwanese, from 92 all the way to 2023, end of 2023. If you look at the green arrow there, you could see, so from just around 20% of Taiwanese, now close to 70% of Taiwanese consider themselves as primarily Taiwanese, right? So they see themselves as belonging to a de facto separate nation. Now, at the same time, those who consider themselves as only Chinese has significantly reduced over time. And then those who see themselves as both Chinese and Taiwanese, it's also on a steady secular decline. So the Taiwanese sense of identity has significantly increased. And that's why, actually, ang nangyari dito is, kahit yung mga seemingly pro-China candidates, even they had to tone down the rhetoric, and even they had to essentially renounce, or not only renounce, but eschew or shun any serious discussion of reunification with China. Kasi alam niyo naman, di ba? Ang idea dyan is, both Taiwan and China, tanggap nila na may isa lang China. Ang disagreement nila is, kanino dapat yung ultimate sovereignty? Is it the regime that escaped to Taiwan and eventually create the foundations of what we today call the Republic of China? Or is it the communist regime in Beijing, right? So both of them agree that there's one mother China, but they don't agree on whom should sovereignty lie. But the reality is that both Taiwan and China are moving in a much more confrontational direction, because Taiwanese are feeling less and less attached to China, and they're feeling more and more de facto independent, although they're not moving yet towards a de jure declaration of independence. No one wants war, no one wants to provoke China. At the same time, yung China rin, nagiging more assertive siya in terms of emphasizing na ang Taiwan po ay dapat kabilang ng China, and that should happen sooner than later. So kung titignan niyo yung end of the year or New Year speech ni Xi Jinping on Taiwan, he effectively said that all options are still on the table. That as President Xi Jinping, or paramount leader Xi Jinping, said, Taiwan and China will surely be unified, right? Dun sa kanyang New Year's Eve speech. So Beijing is they're accusing Taiwan of moving towards de facto independence, and they're accusing them of being agents provocateurs. But for Taiwanese, not only do they feel more Taiwanese, but they also feel that they're being more bullied. And therefore, they have to protect themselves more. So both are moving towards some sort of confrontation. Interestingly, while they're moving towards more confrontation, both are also hoping that a status quo holds. So it's a very tricky situation, because at once, both want more, both are worried, but also both want the situation not to escalate too far. Now, dito yung risky na situation, because i-explain ko, ito yung tinatawag ko na dangerous deadlock. So sa isang banda, ang China ayan ang giyera. But, nagsuslow down yung economy sa China. President Xi Jinping is the paramount leader. So anything that goes wrong, it's gonna be on him. So there's more pressure on President Xi Jinping after everything he has been saying, after everything yung mga factotums niya have been saying. There's growing pressure on the president, right? There's growing pressure on President Xi Jinping to assert